7 wins on the trot, 12 unbeaten at home in the Premier League, Janssen scoring from open play, and an FA Cup semi-final to count down to, along with potentially a title battle. This is your e-Spurs podcast.
Come on, you Spurs! Come on, you Spurs! Come on, you Spurs! Come on, you Spurs! Tottenham, Tottenham!
Hi guys, welcome back for another hour of talking all things Tottenham Hotspur. Please don't forget you can subscribe to the show via iTunes or Acast and get every brand new episode direct as it's released. You can of course follow us across all the usual social media platforms. We're on Twitter and Instagram at e_Spurs. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/e-Spurs page. We're also on YouTube, Pinterest and Tumblr, and for all the links to all e-Spurs platforms you can head to our brand new website of www.e-Spurs.com. On the e-Spurs podcast tonight, we'll be talking about the 4-0 blitzing of Bournemouth from the weekend. We'll be taking your questions for our panel as always, and we'll also be previewing the FA Cup semi-final to come against Chelsea. What a game to count down to this coming Saturday, Wembley, 5:15. But before we start tonight's show, you'll notice that we've got a new feature added to the e-Spurs podcast, Loan Watch, featuring our players currently on loan, as you may have guessed, and you can give a follow to the person managing that for us. That's at coach_Chris83, Chris Duncan, who kindly will be providing weekly updates on all players on loan from the club. So, before we talk all things Tottenham Hotspur tonight, let's introduce tonight's panel, talking us through the next hour. First up, we've got Emma Storey joining. Emma, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Slightly better voice than I was for anybody who heard me out and about last week. So yeah, not quite so husky anymore, but still very, very excited.
Good to hear. And thanks again for joining us, Emma. And for all you guys out there who don't know Emma, Emma is a sports journalist, very passionate Spurs fan. We're delighted to have her back on the show. We've got Jason back with us. Jace, how are you?
Yep, all right, mate. Walking around better than Jack Wilshere.
Cheeky, we'll come on to that. And finally, last but not least, I'm pleased to say we've got Daniel Wynne joining us. Daniel, how are you?
I'm good, like every Spurs fan I think right now. Very good. Very
much so indeed. And Daniel, just before we come on to discussing the weekend's game, do you just want to give a background and affiliation to what your connection is with Spurs out there, just for anyone that doesn't know?
Sure, happy to. I'm the Spurs TV commentator, so all the highlights you see on Twitter, all the highlights you see inside the ground, and anybody that lives overseas, you get Spurs TV 3 hours a week on your cable channels. It's my voice that does the commentary of the game, live for 90 minutes, every game, home and away, and I'm looking forward to taking my place in the commentary box at Wembley on Saturday. And I'm also the trustee of one of the Tottenham charities, the Tottenham Tribute Trust, which looks after the former players from yesteryear who may find themselves in a little bit of financial difficulties later in life.
Very interesting indeed, and I'm sure Daniel will come to talk about those kind of matters as the podcast goes on. Let's bring it back round to you first, Emma. Let's go to you. Massive result of the weekend. I know we've got a massive semi-final to focus on, which I'm sure will be topic of conversation soon, but we have to touch upon the weekend. Another super performance at the Lane. What did you make of it?
Oh God, it's just like I'm definitely starting to run out of words for how bloody fantastic it is watching us at the moment. Like I said it after we beat Watford, I was like, I can't put it into words how this feels. After Bournemouth, it's even more of the same. You just like, I find myself pinching myself that the team that I am watching that are so unbelievably good to watch, that are playing some of the best football I've ever seen, is our team. I'm not the only one. I'm not alone on this podcast, I know, in the fact that, we've witnessed a fair amount of rubbish over the years. We've had occasional good players, but as a style, a general team, there's been some bad periods. We'll overlook the Christian Grocery years, for example. But this is just, it's such a joy to watch us play. It is just so much fun. And and it's all the little touches as well. It's not even just about scoring goals, which is obviously it's brilliant scoring goals, but it's all the little interplay. It's the little 1-2s. It's the little tricks from the likes of Dele. Musa, nobody being able to ever get the ball off Musa ever in the history of the world. It is such a joy to watch. And it was really funny because one of my friends from work is a Bournemouth fan, and she was in the away end, obviously, on Saturday. And she said to me, that they felt like they were going to be lambs to the slaughter when they got to the game, But she said, to be honest, like she said, we knew we were going to get thrashed. She said, but it was actually really enjoyable watching it because the football was so good, you know, that we could actually just really appreciate what was happening in front of us. And I mean, that's a massive compliment to have from any fan of any visiting team, to say how fantastic they think we are when we're absolutely hammering them. And I mean, you know, if it hadn't been for Arta Boruc, it could have been more. It could have been 7 or 8. Like, I mean, oh God, I can't get enough of this team. I cannot get enough of them.
I mean, it's unprecedented territory to which we're finding ourselves in at the moment, the form especially. And Jace, bringing it on to you, Tottenham have won by 3 or more goals on 9 separate occasions in the Premier League this season. That's 28.1% of all games. That is a ridiculous stat, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Well, we're dispelling the myth that there's no easy games in the Premier League, isn't there? Because, I mean, that Saturday was... It looked like a Premier League team against a Sunday pub team at times. It was so comfortable and easy. And it was summed up, wasn't it, with Bournemouth singing, we've had a shot after, 74 minutes?
Yeah, when they finally, one shot on target the whole 90 minutes.
I mean, you kept thinking you know, you'd like to be Hugo's laundry lady, wouldn't you? Because she just didn't even have to iron the kit or anything, would she? Just put it straight back in the bag and get it out again Saturday. It was, I can't remember. I mean, we thought Watford was comfortable, but at least they put us under pressure for 15 minutes at the start. But that one on Saturday was as easy a game as I can remember.
And Jace, very quickly, 12 successive home win. It's formidable, isn't it, the form?
It's been an amazing run of form, hasn't it? And, you know, fingers crossed it becomes 14. But, you know, you still have to say, even if it wasn't to become 14, what a fantastic season we've given White Hart Lane in its send-off year. And as you say, it's the margins of wins. It's the number of. It's not just the wins, is it? It's the goals that you're scoring, the comfortableness of games. It's just been a fantastic home season, that's for sure.
It really has. And bringing it round to you, Daniel, you've been lucky enough and privileged enough in your job to be there at the Lane for this formidable run of form. I have to ask you, Harry Kane has now scored 20 plus goals in 3 consecutive seasons, involved in 30 goals in all competitions. He's dispelling this whole 3-season wonder. What is he? He's incredible, isn't it?
It's funny because the first year it was a 1-season wonder. Now all of a sudden, when he got injured, everyone was saying it's a one-man team, and that tells you what everyone thinks of Harry Kane at the moment. Yeah. So he has really turned it around. But go back to some things that Emma said about the stats and some of the great things. I want to draw attention to the partnership at the back, Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen. They've started 19 Premier League games together this season. We've won 15. Drawn 3, lost just a 1, kept 11 clean sheets in those 19 games and conceded only 9 goals. To me, you start at the back, that's the core, that's the root of it, and everything sort of goes from there. I mean, the stats just keep on coming. 95 goals last season in 53 games in all competitions. Already this year in 46 games, 97 goals. We've already beaten last year.
It's amazing.
It just 69 goals in the Premier League last season, which was a club Premier League era record. 68 already this year. It just goes on and on and on. I
mean, the defensive record is something that it is. I think is probably one of the hardest things for us to get used to as Tottenham fans now, because we've always had ability going forward, and we've always had brilliant attacking players who can score goals out of nothing. We've always generally, most years scored a fair amount of goals, but we just always used to concede an absolute shed load of them as well. I mean, our goal difference now in the Premier League
plus
is
48.
plus 40. Is it 48, 46? The thing is that I remember seasons when we couldn't even score 46 goals, let alone score 46 goals more than we've conceded. I mean, it's just.
And we've only conceded 22. We conceded last year only 35, which I think was the best in the Premier League or second best in the. It's just phenomenal. It's record after record. It just keeps on tumbling.
And
it just keeps getting better as well.
Like you guys said there, the defence as well. When you consider as well, we've had Hugo Lloris out at times, Danny Rose. I mean, Kyle Walker. He's changed the fullbacks, but still in that defence, there seems to be an understanding between all of them about what their duties are. Everyone seems to know going out on that pitch what they need to do. And another player, guys, I have to bring it round to you, Emma, that's risen to the occasion is Heung-min Son. It's 8 goals in his last 5 appearances. I mean, the stats for him is just ridiculous. Heung-min Son, this guy to be fair, at the start of the season, he was a backup player. Now we're in a position where we're looking one eye on Chelsea thinking, can we leave him out?
I am so thrilled. I'm so thrilled because if you can meet a nicer, more hardworking lad in a team, it's hard to find. And like his attitude, considering, like you said, that he started out, not being a player that was going to be in the starting lineup, that's really had to fight for his place. I mean, obviously he's benefited from Lamella's injury this season, so it's given him a much more consistent run at the team as a whole. But my God, he's taken his chance and he's run with it. And it's really interesting what Daniel said earlier about the fact that when Harry Kane got injured, everybody was saying, well, Tottenham are a one-man team, this is it, it's over for them. Harry was out, we just carried on scoring goals, and Sonny was such a massive part of that and still continues to be a massive part of that. I mean, I know we're going to come on and talk about Chelsea and facing them in the semi-final on Saturday, but for me, the form that he is in the moment, it is impossible to leave him out. He just cannot. He's just got, his confidence is so high now, and every time he has the ball within sight of goal, he's going to shoot, and more often than not these days he's going to score. I mean, the important goals that he has got for us, and that actually stretched back to last season as well, that he pulled out some goals in really big matches where we really needed the game to turn. I just think, I mean, the other thing as well, I've said this before on lots of different podcasts and on my blog and everything, like Sonny just looks like the happiest person in the world to be playing football. He looks like he walks out onto that pitch every day and is just like, this is so fantastic. And for me, that is what you want to see in your team, because like God, as a professional footballer, you should be loving life. Every time you score a goal, you should think it's the best thing that's ever happened. And with Sonny, you really feel that he does. It's amazing. I love that.
He's so difficult to defend against. He's got the ball and he runs at defenders, and defenders are scared to tackle.
They hate it. Yeah.
They hate, we've been awarded 9 penalties, I think, in the last 31 games, right? And a lot of them were down to him.
Yep.
You think back to the West Ham game, that last-minute penalty. It's down to him. He runs at defenders, and they can't handle it.
That's very true. And JCU, I mean, 19 goals, 9 assists in just 27 starts. So he's having an impact on games. I think a lot of people were saying, well, he's better off coming off the bench. I mean, Saturday, you've just seen again, starting the game, he's had an impact. It's a real dilemma. I know we're going to come on to Chelsea shortly, but he's in the form of his life, isn't he? He really is. Well,
I think I was full of praise for him last week, and as I said, I think I defended it last week when people were calling him an impact player, and I think I said last week that it's now 16 of his 19 goals have come when he started. I think the key thing with him is an impact player, because he gets into a rhythm. And once he gets games under his belt, and that Millwall hat-trick did him the world of good, didn't it? On the day that Kane was forced off with that original injury, to get a hat-trick that day, and the quality of goals that he scored on that day. And I think that's the other thing with him. It's not just the goals he scored. When you look back, the quality of goals that he scored. I mean, was it the second one at Borough, or was it the first one when he bent it into that top corner?
Second, what a finish. Phenomenal.
His second one at Stoke was a fantastic goal, wasn't it?
It was.
Which was second against Watford.
Was in that top corner.
Yeah, Watford, what a goal.
A bit low, that second one was brilliant.
The Millwall goal when he bent it in the top. I mean, it's just, a lot of the goals that he scores are real high quality goals as well.
And he's the best in the world at handshakes, right? He's brilliant.
Hell yeah. More power to the handshake. We've made it our personal mission. We are going to learn a Sonny handshake.
Have you had a chance, Daniel? Have you had a chance to have one with him yet or not?
Paul Coit's your man for that.
Yeah, well, we had Paul on. He did say he was a man for that. Sticking with you, Daniel, for a second. Another guy that really at the moment is rising to the occasion is Christian Eriksen. Ran the game again, forced the openings, pushed the tempo, was always able to receive and give the ball. I mean, he's a class above, isn't he, at the moment? What are you making of his form?
He started 31 of our 32 league games now this season. Yeah. And, because he doesn't score week in, week out, yes, he contributes on the goal scoring front. It's 11 this season now in all competitions, but his assists, his vision, to me he's like Jan Vertonghen but further up the field. He's just so cool and composed, and he does it his way in his time, and the vision, it's just exemplary. And his passes, his layoffs, he can split open a defence, whether it's, no disrespect, the Bournemouth defence or the Chelsea defence, with one pass and take 3 men out with it. It's brilliant.
Go on, Em.
I think the really interesting thing with Christian Eriksen this season especially is that he always had all the ability and the skills and the vision, and that's absolutely what his game is there for, but he sometimes lacked in work rate, and he had an annoying habit sometimes of going missing for like big halves of big games where you were kind of like, he's just not kind of there. This season, I feel like, especially the second half of this season, I feel like he's completely eliminated that. It's like the one weak area of his game he's just completely worked on and completely got rid of. He has been the dominant force in all of our attacking moves, probably for the last 6-7 games now. Maybe he's run the show, and it's showing in the amount of goals we're getting going forward. Because more often than not, he is the one who is starting those moves, or he is the one who is moving to create space for others to get through. I mean, I read a stat, I think this week or last week, that he's actually covered more miles on the pitch than any of our other players this season. And if you think that people sometimes used to accuse him of being lazy, that's a huge stat when you think about the miles that the likes of like Kyle Walker will put in on the pitch in a 90 minutes. So I mean, just all power to him. He's one of the most underrated players, not just in the Premier League, but I think in the whole of Europe. I think he does not get enough credit. And the exciting thing is he's so young. He's only going to get better.
Well, I think at the moment, I think 9 assists in his last 10 appearances, 12 in the league this season, more than any other player. I mean, he really is coming to the front of it at the real time we need him. Really, really fabulous player. And I have to say, guys, Eddie Howe's post-match comments, he says, I think this is probably the best team we've played against in a single match this season. They are a team that we aspire to be, but they are certainly a level above us at the moment. Jason, I mean, we've had a lot of managers this season give us those kind of words. It's not just a freak, is it? I mean, this Tottenham side, they're getting plaudits from all over at the moment. No one can say at the moment we're not getting the credit we deserve, because everyone out there is dishing the thing that Spurs are a great team to watch and arguably playing the best football this season.
Well, it was almost a repeat of his interview last year, wasn't it? 12 months before, when he said we were the best team. And I think it was a even more pointed remark, bearing in mind that they'd only played Chelsea a week beforehand.
Yeah.
And it's not like Chelsea had gone there and won 3-1 6 months ago, and they'd kind of forgotten about it by then. To have had him say that a week after Chelsea had gone down there and won 3-1, I think was what made it a more standout remark for me than it originally looked on paper.
Very true. I'll bring it on to you, Daniel. I've got to bring this up. Vincent Janssen comes on the field, icing on the cake, goal from open play. Has this guy got a Spurs future, Daniel? What do you reckon?
Of course he has. His work rate is phenomenal. He holds the ball up really well. Okay, he doesn't score as many goals, but I said in commentary, you won't find a more popular goal scorer at the club than when he scored on Saturday. He was in the right place and he put it away at the second attempt. And the cheer said it all, just as it was against Millwall, right? It was the biggest cheer of the day, and he fully deserves it. And the players are really rooting for him. You saw Mauricio Pochettino leading the celebrations when he went in, and he's a genuinely nice guy. He's also young, and if you cast your mind back to the first game of the season at Everton, I think with 7 or 8 minutes to go, he had a chance. But had that have gone in, I think the goals would have started flowing. But now he knows the crowd are behind him, the players are definitely working for him and willing him on, and I think next year will be a different season for him.
I think as well, the memories now are fresh, aren't they? Because he's got 2 goals from open play in the last 4 or 5 weeks, plus that man of the match display against Swansea. So gradually the positive moments are coming out of him, and a lot of the negativity is starting to disappear. We just now need Moussa Sissoko to find the net, and you saw really late on, didn't you, with Sissoko, that he had an opportunity, and you could just see the fact there was just no confidence in him at all, and he dawdled for ages, whereas you feel now that if that had been Janssen, he'd hit it, and we just a few people can get off of Moussa Sissoko's back. We might even get something from him in the last few games.
They'll both score at Wembley next week, you watch.
Yeah, I've just been the biggest supporter of Vincent Janssen, and everybody knows it, and anyone who follows me on Twitter knows it. I've always gone on and on about him, and I think he's got so much potential. I think so much of what he's done this season has been so good, and the goals are finally starting to come. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Sonny's first season with us was very hit and miss.
Very true.
He showed lots of potential, but he didn't score very many goals. He didn't necessarily do the best stuff with the ball. Like, there were glimpses where you thought, oh yeah, and then people thought, oh no. People were calling for him to be sold. There were rumours he was going to be on his way out back to Germany. We stuck with him, and now look. And I really, really just hope that people can see that the potential is there for Janssen as well. Yeah. It does take. He is so young. I know he looks massive, but he's 22, and he's come from a league which is just nowhere near the level in class that the Premier League is, and it is difficult to adapt English football is a very different beast to any of the other European leagues. And, you know, I think it's taken him a while to settle, but I agree with Daniel. I think next season now, I really do think we're going to see a different player. I think confidence-wise, he's going to be right up there. And it's so great to see how happy everybody is. Like, Pochettino really, the biggest
the celebration was amazing.
Was Janssen scoring. He absolutely loved it. And, you know, if there's ever any doubt in your mind that you've got to think, well, does this player have a future at Tottenham? If Pochettino is going mad on the touchline for him, he has a future at Tottenham.
You'd like to think so. And coming to you, Daniel, I've got to ask you, only Italian side Juventus have a better home record than Tottenham in Europe's big five leagues this season. Obviously, in terms of your role, you're being there for all these games. The atmosphere, it is amazing, isn't it, at the moment at the Lane? I mean, we've got to seal it, and with Arsenal, Man United, can we get over the line with these two? What do you reckon?
We can do. I think they're two hard games. I do think we'll beat Arsenal. The Manchester United game, no one likes to spoil a party more than Mourinho.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that could be one of our hardest home games this season. But can we do it? Yeah, of course we can. But you know, you talk about the atmosphere at White Hart Lane, the atmosphere all around the club. Yeah. It's just so positive from the chairman to the tea lady, right? It's everyone has a spring in their step. It's exciting times. You know, you can look out from the club offices at the building work that's going on into the new stadium. You know, the training ground is, you know, state of the art facilities, the best certainly in England, arguably the best in Europe, and the stadium will match that, if not beat it. And everyone is feeling just so positive right now. And what we need to cap it all is a trophy. How wonderful would that be?
It will be indeed, and we're going to come on to Chelsea in a little bit, I do promise. I know we want to do a big countdown on that. It's such a big game the weekend. I know we're all buzzing for it, especially on the back of this result. Emma, coming around to you very quickly. 71 points Spurs this season from 32 Premier League games this season. One more than we managed in the whole of last season, and we've still got 6 games to go.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier on in the pod about when we talk about our goal scoring statistics and our conceding statistics. This is another one, like our point statistics. Like, I'm looking at the table and I'm like, we're already past 70 points and it's not even into May. Like, we are so far clear. I mean, we're 5 points, still 5 points clear in second. I mean, you know, we were up until, I mean, I presume that lot down the road are still winning, but we were 17 points clear of them before they kicked off this evening. I mean, that's never happened.
14 points now. 14.
So it's 14 now. But before they kicked off, it was 17. We had never, in Premier League history, been 17 points ahead of Arsenal. The last time that happened was 50 years ago. Yep. So, I mean,
we don't have to look that far down the table, do we?
We don't. They're not really a concern anymore, to be honest. And they're not really, you know, they're not really gathering interest in the way they have done in previous seasons, just because we've got bigger fish to fry. I think Pochettino hit the nail on the head. But I mean, the thing about our points tally, I think, which actually makes me happier than anything, is that it's not a false reflection of us. It's not like we've got jammy wins. It's not like, you know, we've got lucky refereeing decisions go our way. Like, the points we have earned are on absolute merit. That unbeaten run at home is on absolute merit. The 7 games in a row, we've never won 7 games in a row in the Premier League before. It's totally on merit. At the moment, on form, we are far and away the best side in the Premier League, which is just the most incredible position to be in at this stage of the season. You know, we've had glimpses and flashes before, but it's never been when it mattered. Now, all of a sudden, where last season, you know, we obviously tailed off very badly towards the end, and there is a possibility that could still happen now. But I feel the momentum now with our players is so strong. Yeah. At this stage of last season, even though we were still getting the results, the performances were starting to look a little bit dodgy. There was moments where things weren't coming together. Yeah. If anything, this side now is just getting stronger and stronger with every game that they play. It's incredible to watch.
It really does. And bring it to you, Jace. No club has scored more goals, conceded fewer in the Premier League than Spurs this season. 13 home wins out of a possible 14. Everything is going to plan. We are going to bring Chelsea into the agenda right now. This game Saturday, hand on heart, how are you feeling going into it?
Well, you have to be confident, don't you? When you're on a run like this, even though I think regular listeners will know I have actually a bit of respect for them as not necessarily as a football club, but the way they can grind results out more than anyone else. But the form that we're in and the confidence that's flowing through the side, the way we're scoring goals, the way we played against them at New Year, you have to have confidence going into the game, and you have to have belief that we can definitely beat them. And then you throw in their performance at Old Trafford, where they looked a long way away from a a normal Chelsea side, and definitely it's a game that I think we have to have confidence in. But we have to go and do it, don't we? It's one thing talking the talk this week, and it's one thing talking confidence. It's still another thing to go and do it, and we have to go and do it. That's the big test for us.
We do indeed. I'll bring it to you, Em. I mean, obviously we saw that gap shorten at the weekend. Are we going to allow ourselves to even think we're in with a sniff?
Yes, of course. But you have to. Until it's mathematically not possible, you have to believe. And especially, I'll come back. I've just said it. I'll say it again. We are the most informed side in the Premier League at the moment. And Chelsea, even with as fantastic as they have been this season, Chelsea are having a wobble now. They've lost 2 really big games in fairly quick succession, and all of a sudden a gap that was 13 points a month ago is now just 4. And to guarantee themselves the Premier League title now, as it stands, they still need 15 points with 6 games to go, assuming that we're going to win all our games, which, I mean, we might not, but you have to assume on
the form we're in, you would, wouldn't you? Say the form we're in, you think we could, couldn't you?
To need 15 points still at this stage of the season to guarantee the title, that is tight. There is not that much room for manoeuvre with them, not with the form that we're in. And yes, I think we can argue that our title run is tougher than theirs. I think we have got several harder games than they have, but equally our very toughest games of the season are both at home, a place where we're yet to be beaten this season and where we have looked incredible in almost every game that we've played. So I think obviously we're Spurs fans, we know how this goes, we've been here before in terms of, you think it's the hope that kills you, but you know what, I really believe Pochettino believes in that team and the players believe in themselves, and I think we need to start believing in them a little bit more. I think their mentality has changed on the pitch, but I think ours off the pitch hasn't necessarily, and I think it's about time that it did. If this was any other side who were chasing Chelsea down and were 4 points behind, if this was a Manchester City or a Liverpool or a United, people would be going, of course they can still win a title. We need to be saying that about ourselves now. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's still Chelsea's to lose. They have to mess up. But the way that we're going, as long as we still keep pushing, I always said all along, I want to make Chelsea win that title. I don't want it to hand it to them on a plate like we handed it to Leicester last year. I want to make them win it, and I want to push them for as long and as far as we can. And I feel in the form that we're in at the moment, we can. And it'll only take a couple more slip-ups from them now, and all of a sudden our noses will be in front. Because not least as well, our goal difference is so much better than theirs. So it's not even actually about getting in front of them points-wise. We only need to get level with them on points-wise and we'll be above them. Our goal difference, I think, is about 10 more than theirs. Yeah, it's a big difference.
What do you reckon, Daniel? I mean, it's again, like Emma just said there, best goal difference in the league, most goals scored, least conceded. You would say that if they are to slip, we're more than ready to take advantage, aren't we?
I think the way to answer that question is if you ask any Premier League manager, if you ask any Premier League supporter which team they would not want to face right now, they would all say Tottenham Hotspur. And, that has not been the case for many a year, but it's absolutely the case today. And having just won 7 on the spin, we won 6 on the trot earlier on this season as well. We've only lost 3 times in the Premier League this season. We're unbeaten at home. I know we've only got 2 home games left this season. We've got some tricky games away from home as well. Leicester are rejuvenated. It's never easy at Palace. West Ham will obviously be up for it, but no side wants to face Tottenham. So if there's anybody that can capitalise on Chelsea potentially slipping up, it's going to be us, and we can do it. And we could carry on from here, and we could win the next 6 games. We may not. I think I tweeted on Saturday, which got about 350 likes. Whatever happens, we have a team that we can be proud of now.
We can. Yeah, it's been nuts. No one can question the attitude this season, the togetherness. We've seen it again this season. We've seen how much the team have come on. This is with countless injuries. I mean, we've said this season how many injuries this team have had. They've bounced back. It's been a phenomenal. Seeing Spurs with only 3 defeats in the Premier League, you're having to double check twice. It's incredible to think we've only lost 3 games this season. And Jace, bringing it to you. Possible mind games from Conte yesterday at his press conference. He said, I think Tottenham now is the best team. They're in great form. They are feeling the possibility to write history. Is he just trying to deflect the pressure away from his Chelsea side at the moment?
I'm not so sure I buy into all the mind games. They get asked a comment and they have to give an answer. I'm not necessarily. I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact he's trying mind games on. I think he gave an honest answer to a question, and he's right. We are the best team in the country at the moment, and we're proving that week in, week out. So, no, I wouldn't say it's mind games. It's just a question of like I say, that the closer that we get to them, the more the pressure will come onto us as well, and we have to handle that. And the one thing that Chelsea have got is experience running through that entire squad. Even him, he's won the league as a manager and a player. We've got Jan and Toby are the only two for us that have won the league. I think I'm right in saying so.
Yep.
They know exactly how to handle it. I think I've said there are still 8 ifs that we need to go our way. And the big test, of course, will be that next following weekend, won't it? The Everton. We need Everton to. Everton's one of those games that they have to lose, isn't it? If we're to have any chance at all, you feel like they've got to slip up at Everton, and then we kick off the North London derby straight after that game. And if by some chance they have lost that game, then we'll have the pressure of the last North London derby. We'll have the pressure of trying to close to within a point. We'll have the whole emotion of that game as well, and that will be the big test. And at last we'll have a meaningful derby again.
They're playing Southampton on the Tuesday after this semi-final. And if we beat them on Saturday, they will not want to go into that game so quickly. Southampton are a side that could trouble them if they lose on Saturday.
I see the Southampton side that lost to City, and they were awful that day. So, I'm not saying it's impossible. I still think it's highly improbable. But that the Everton weekend is huge, isn't it? Because you feel that. I mean, even if they were to lose to Southampton, they've still got to lose another one, or certainly drop. They have got to lose at least one more, haven't they?
No, they've only got to draw another one. If we
draw one, okay.
Because that goal difference.
Because of the goal difference being so different.
Whichever way round it is, we definitely, when you look at their 6 games, you feel that the Everton is their hardest one to have to come across. And then, as I say, then we'll have the big job of the derby, within half an hour of that game ending.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we do. I mean, what I do love is Pochettino's quote on the Chelsea game upcoming. He said, Tottenham is not building in an artificial way. It's not about putting money and building a fantastic team. Tottenham is genuine, a very natural process, and it is so exciting because it's unique in the world. I mean, God, if this guy, you absolutely love him. Emma,
I'm so in love with this manager. Oh
it
my
is
God.
incredible, guys. We've got so much to get through. We really have. I know. He honestly, I don't know if he means to say the best thing, but everything he said at the moment is just perfect. He can't do no wrong. And what I love is every game he wins, he patiently waits for every single player to come off the field, hugs and kisses them as they go down the tunnel. It is just, honestly, amazing to watch. It really, really is. It is like a fairy tale. Hopefully, like I say, like Daniel was said, hopefully there's a trophy at the end of it. What we're going to do, guys, we're going to go for a very quick break where they're going to take a host of questions for tonight's panel, and we're going to preview the FA Cup tie to come this Saturday. Stay with us. We'll be back after this short break. Hi guys, welcome back to the e-Spurs podcast. As always, we ask you to get your questions into us on a weekly basis. You can do that by tweeting our Twitter account of @e_Spurs, leaving your tweet with the hashtag eSpursPod. Now, it's fair to say again, guys, you've got into us in your droves, and I can't thank you enough. We're going to take a selection of questions now to put forward to the panel. First question tonight goes to you, Emma. We've got a question here from John Doarks @JanSpurs, who says, should Eric Dyer replace Victor Wanyama in the midfield for the semi-final? Question for the pod. I mean, what a question that is. Tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one. I personally think at the moment, yes, because I think we should keep exactly the same lineup that we played against Bournemouth. I think if Danny Rose had been available, we could have played the same lineup that we played in January when we beat Chelsea. But because he's not, we need the extra attacking threat going forward. I think Dyer distributes the ball better than Wanyama going forward. I also think it means then Sonny can start. And Chelsea have already shown that they couldn't deal with pace when they played United on Sunday. I think Sonny will be their worst nightmare, and I think he has to start. So I therefore think that Dyer should stay in the midfield alongside Dembele, who has also obviously been absolutely brilliant. I think we need to go attack at Wembley. There is no point in just sitting on being really defensive. Wanyama's been fantastic, but he's also not, he's been out for a little bit now. He's had this injury. Dyer's playing really, really well in that central midfield role at the moment. You've got to pick your players that are in form when you're playing the very best. And so that's why I think personally Dyer should stay in for the Chelsea game.
And very quickly, guys, yes, no, just a yes, no. Daniel, for you, what would you do?
Same team as Saturday.
Okay, and Jason, to you?
I'm slightly in favour of Wanyama.
Okay.
But it's really tight.
Such a tight call, that one. Okay, let's roll the next question onto you, Jason. We've got a question here from Spiggy at Spiggy Taupe, who says, who are the identifiable players in the first team match squad who run the risk of being upgraded? Very quickly, Jace, reel off some names for us. Who is in risk of being upgraded?
Well, anyone that didn't start on Saturday, really.
So Sissoko, Nkudu,
Sissoko and Kudu. Trippier, I think, would be out. Well, it depends if Trippier wants to move, doesn't he, himself in the summer. But realistically, I think that's the same with any club. If players aren't holding down a regular place, then they're the ones that are susceptible to be upgraded on.
Yeah, fair enough. And next question to you, Daniel, bringing you in. We've got Mark at Icarus Stumbling here, who says, Ben Davies, stopgap with a good resale value or long-term number 2?
I think if you look at our squad, there's so much depth now, which you haven't had for a long time. And Ben Davies has come in. He started the last, I think, 13 games in all competitions. He's barely put a foot wrong, and I think he's an excellent addition to that squad. And we've seen Trippier and Walker alternate over the last couple of weeks. Danny Rose is obviously going to be starting when he's fit, but Ben Davies, for me, he's come on in the last 2 months leaps and bounds.
He has indeed. And next question to you, Emma. We've got Melly Ali here from M Price D, and I know you are very confident, Emma, so I know you'll give us a great answer to this one. This guy says, I'm dreaming to think we'll be able to keep every player we want from this squad for next season. What do you think?
I totally agree. I have said before in previous podcasts, the most important man at our club at the moment is Mauricio Pochettino, and as long as he is there, they will want to stay there for him. Yep. I mean, I've spoken at length about the likes of Harry and Delhi, and everybody talking about, the big clubs, United, City wanting to come in, rumours of Rose wanting to go off for a move. I think we're underestimating the way that our players have bought into the project that Pochettino is creating and the legacy that he's building here. They don't have a better chance of winning the league with anybody else apart from possibly Chelsea at the moment. The only reason that any of them could possibly want to move, especially in the first team, is money, because we know that we obviously don't pay the same level of wages as the likes of City or Chelsea or Arsenal pay. But I think what we've seen under Pochettino is the real development of a relationship between a manager and his players, and I think in a lot of respects that is far stronger, especially when you couple that with the fact that we're starting to have success, that we're challenging for trophies, that we're going to secure Champions League football again for a second successive season, the first time that we've ever done that. These players are all very young still. It's not like they're in the end of their careers where they have to go, oh my God, I have to go now for one last payday or for one last shot at a trophy. None of these players are in that position. They have no reason to leave a club that is on the brink of such fantastic achievements, which it really is. I honestly don't see, and I mean, as a sports journalist, you kind of you tend to be quite cynical about these things, but there is something I see a real genuine belief and relationship between the players and the manager. And I think as long as Pochettino is there, I think there is no reason for any of those first choice players to go anywhere. And I don't think that they will. I really don't. Yeah,
no, I completely agree with you. And we're going to bring it on some questions now for Saturday in mind. Going to come first to you, Jace. Question here, this is from Pod Spur. Evening, lads. Does the Man United victory over Chelsea give us any insightful clues as to how to beat them this coming Saturday in the Cup? What do you think, Jace?
Well, the obvious one is to go man for man on Hazard, isn't it? But I don't see us doing that. I'm not so sure we got a player that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Have we got a player disciplined enough to be able to do the way Mourinho managed Herrera? Because that is technically taking one player out of the game completely to man mark another individual. Do we have that in the squad? Do we have to trust in Eric Dyer or Victor Wanyama to be able to do that job? You don't seem to think so, no?
Well, I think Eric Dyer you could trust to do the job. But the problem is then if you're playing with Son and you also get Eric Dyer man marking, then it leaves a massive hole in midfield. Don't forget Manchester United kept with 3 in midfield, and that leaves Dembele on his own in there if Eric Dyer's wandering round with Eden Hazard. And I'm sure if you're Chelsea this week, you're aware of that problem, and you'd be saying to Hazard, look, if somebody does attach themselves on you, it's up to you to find a better solution this week, and they've got a week to come up with it. So I don't think we'll do that. I'd be very surprised if Pochettino does that. But the tempo, I think that the biggest thing that Manchester United played out was that tempo through the whole game, and that the aggressive intent of the way, and they pressed and pressed and pressed. And the one thing that we've struggled to do at Wembley is to do that for 90 minutes to any side, and we struggled on that bigger pitch. So, that's why I perhaps would slightly go with Wanyama over Son as well, just to give us that little bit more solidity and make sure that we're less vulnerable to be hit on the counter. But you have to say it was a Mourinho tactical masterclass. But I'm not so sure we'll go down the man for man route.
Yeah, I have to wait and see. And that brings us along nicely, Daniel, to the next question of the night, which is from Montessor619, who says, and we've just pointed out there, will Wembley affect our style in the semi-final, or will we show the character and reach the FA Cup final?
I don't buy the whole Wembley is a problem thing. Whatever's happened this year in the Champions League is done. We effectively ended that in December. We've played there in February in the Europa League. We did okay. We are able to play wherever we have to play against whoever we're drawn against, and we will do well. Think back to 2nd of October, Man City at home. They came into that game having won every game, I think, from memory, and we destroyed them, right? We absolutely destroyed them. How? We closed them down, we didn't let them settle, and we played our own attacking game. Look at the first half at Stamford Bridge earlier on this season. Apart from conceding that goal before half-time, we were excellent. We destroyed Chelsea at White Hart Lane in January. We've got nothing to fear. We go out, we worry about ourselves and not them. Hazard will take care of himself. Don't worry about him. Play our own game and everything will fall into place. I'm the most pessimistic, nervous person going into any game. I have no doubts about Saturday at all.
That tells you just how much, Daniel, this team have somehow brainwashed you into thinking that. It's unbelievable, isn't it? The form, it is crazy, but I do agree with you. The form has been sensational. I think that's why we're all going into the FA Cup game in confidence rather than fear. And that brings us on nicely, Emma, to the next question of the night. This is from Edward Santilli, at Edward Santilli, who says, without Danny Rose and our current hot streak, do we stay with the same back four, especially after what United did to them? What do you think?
Well, like I said, I think I've sort of answered this earlier on. I think we go with the same lineup. I agree as well with Jace that I don't think we'll man-mark Hazard. It's not our style. We're so fluid in that whole kind of front half of the team, and even the defence. We talk about how our wide men, become wingers practically. They get so far up the pitch, and then you see Eriksen and Ali, even Eric Dyer, interchanging in the middle. I just can't see that our game plan won't be about stopping Chelsea. It will be about executing our own game plan. I think that's the way that Pochettino is going to look at it. And it's like Daniel said, we've got nothing to fear. We thrashed them at White Hart Lane earlier in the season. We should have got something out of the game at Stamford Bridge. And we're used to playing at Wembley now. The last two games we played at Wembley against Ghent and CSKA Moscow. CSKA Moscow was a really good performance. And then Ghent, the only reason that we didn't win that game was because Dele Alli got sent off. If we had 11 people on that pitch, there was no doubt we would have won that match. Yeah. So I think the whole Wembley, the Wembley hoodoo thing has got to stop, especially when it comes to the FA Cup, where it's not meant to be a home ground anyway. It's a 50-50 ground. It's our responsibility to go in there and back the boys 100%.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. I have to apologise, guys. We're not going to get through all the questions tonight. As always, Jason will be on hand to answer all of the questions you guys have put towards us. You can see his responses to your questions on our Twitter account of @e_Spurs. We're going to focus, guys, on the semi-final now, coming into it in a bit more detail. For me personally, I have to ask this question to all of you. This game, psychologically, if we were to win it, coming first to you, Jace, does it have an impact on the title itself? Or for you, doesn't play a massive bearing because of the points gap? What do you think?
I definitely think it has an impact, but I think it would obviously have a much bigger one if that point gap was down to 1 point rather than 4.
Yeah.
I think maybe the impact of a semi-final, whichever way it will go, will actually have the bigger thing that Chelsea having to play the 24 hours earlier in midweek straight after that game. And I suppose if they're the ones that are coming out on the back of a defeat, they're going straight into that Southampton game quicker than we are. So, and you wouldn't be in the least bit surprised, would you, if we end up going to an extra time or something like that at Wembley? So I actually think that'll have the bigger impact, the fact that they're playing before us rather than any one-off particular result.
What do you think, Emma, bringing it to you?
Yeah, I think Chelsea, we've got a bad history with Chelsea at Wembley recently. Obviously 2008 we beat them in the League Cup final, but since then we got humiliated by them in an FA Cup semi, and then we obviously lost that League Cup final in Pochettino's first season. Obviously are used to beating us at Wembley and they love it. I think psychologically, whoever wins the game on Saturday will have an advantage going into the tail end of the season. I think it may be possibly more damaging for us if we lose it than it will be for Chelsea if they lose it, because like you said, they've got that 4-point cushion. And I think that, beating them will give us a massive boost. But I think that losing it will be will be more damaging for us than it would be for them. I think as well. I think Jace is right about the fatigue element. I think it's really good that we're playing on the Wednesday when they're playing on the Tuesday. Like you said, it could go to extra time and penalties quite feasibly, and they will be tired. And they've had a long season in as much as they've played a lot. They've played quite a consistent selection a lot of the time. So those players will be feeling it a little bit at this stage. So yeah, I think that could possibly play in our favour. But I think psychologically, whoever wins this game on Saturday is going to have a massive advantage going into the end of the season, whichever team do it. And but I feel a little bit like Dan said earlier on. I feel hugely confident going into this game. I feel like the mentality has changed for us, for our players. I'm seeing a side to them that we didn't see last season, and I feel really good going into this game. Yeah,
I'm bringing it to you, Daniel. I know just on that question very quickly, will it have an impact on the title for you, yes or no on that? I want to ask you something else afterwards.
Yeah, yes, of course it could. Winning is everything, and if Chelsea were to slip up again on Saturday on the back of the Man United game, and squeaky bum time, as somebody once said, right? And but if we were to lose, 2010 lost 2-0 against Portsmouth, if my memory serves me correctly. Next two games that week, was it Arsenal and Chelsea?
Yeah,
not necessarily in that order. We won them both, right? So anything can happen. Law of averages, we are due a win in the semi-final. We've lost the last 6 in the FA Cup, so we are due one.
And very quickly, Daniel, for you, we haven't had your opinion on it. I know what you said earlier, this team need a trophy. Is that where you see the next level for Spurs? The progression of the Champions League is great, getting that, which looks like now for arguably a second successive season. But just how important for you as a Spurs fan, and also working for the club, do you feel the trophy is such an important next step forward for the club to be recognised now as winners, getting over the line in a major tournament? Is that imperative for this club moving forward, do you reckon?
I think it's important. It's been far too long since we have won, let's say, the FA Cup, 1991, right? That's a long time ago, right? And this team, as I said before, deserves to win something. For me, as a football fan, I'd rather win the FA Cup and finish 5th in the league, than the top 4. The top 4 isn't a trophy. No. People may disagree with me, but for me, as a fan, I want to see my team going up the steps at Wembley, lifting a trophy. And I think this side deserves to do that. We've played, it's acknowledged by the majority in this country, some of the best football in the Premier League this season, and certainly for the most consistent periods of time this season as well. And the icing on the cake would be a trophy at Wembley at the end of May.
Yeah, and coming to you, Jace, I think we've said it before on this podcast, would it not be an absolute travesty if we don't win a trophy with this squad? Because the form we've spoken about is formidable, but no one's going to remember it if there's not a trophy at the end of it. Do you not agree that we need to win something with this squad and this manager, surely?
Yeah, without a doubt, we need to start picking up trophies. But, I've always... My point with being in that top 4 is that being in that top 4, if it gives you that stronger squad, it keeps you your better players at the club. It attracts better players to the club. Then the natural process from that will be you have a better chance to win trophies further down the line than you do by just winning a one-off FA Cup. But you're right. This side needs a trophy, and that'll always be thrown at us until we get across the line in something that. You've still got nothing to show for it. And the worst thing is, we could be sitting here, couldn't we, say, God, it's an awful thing to think about, but it's quite possible that you could be sitting in here saying you've had your best season ever and you still haven't won anything, and Arsenal have had their worst season ever and they've actually won a cup at the end of it. So, and Chelsea have won the league. So, yet again, suddenly you'd have the two big rival clubs in London kind of laughing at us, saying, your best season's still counting for nothing. So, we still have to get across that line for sure, and until we do that, it will get thrown at us.
Team for Saturday. We've touched upon this briefly. Emma, you're saying exactly the same team in your opinion for you.
Yeah, 100%. I think they're all banging form. I think they all know exactly what they're doing. I think their confidence is sky high. I think it also then gives us good options on the bench, with the likes of Janssen being able to come off and have an impact later on. I'm 100%. And Trippier as well is a good option on the bench. Brings a whole new extra dimension to the game with his crossing ability. So yeah, for me, I think you start the same team and you let them roll with it.
Yeah,
It's banging form.
And that means for you that Dyer is starting over Wanyama in that.
Yeah, and Sonny starts.
Okay, interesting. Jace, very quickly for you.
For me, as harsh as it is, as I say, I just fancy. I would just favour Wanyama coming back in for Sonny, but that is a really harsh call to make on him. And actually, you know, if he does go with Son up front, then, you know, the important thing is we all get behind Pochettino, because I'm sure you'll get the odd idiot who'll run straight to Twitter straight after the game if we did lose it and say, "See, I told you we should have done that, or we should have done that." You know, it's a really tight call for him. It's going to be really harsh to tell either of those that they're not playing as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I might just go for Wanyama.
Such a tricky one. Daniel, for you, I mean, Wanyama, he's been formidable this season at midfield. You know, you'd probably arguably say he's one of the standout performers, could arguably go on to win, I don't know, Tottenham's player of the season, I don't know. For you, what's your gut on the team lineup? What would you like to see, in your opinion?
I'd like to see us win it at about 7:15
Well,
on Saturday.
we all want that. We all want that. But team-wise for you, what do you think?
I firmly come from the school of thought, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But equally, I could see Wanyama starting. It's a big pitch. It needs some strength in midfield. It could absolutely go either way. But I'm going to stick my neck out and say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So stick with
Wanyama was outstanding, wasn't he, in that win at White Hart Lane?
He was. He's been outstanding all season.
Quite possibly.
He has been. It's not. It's, you know, my decision.
It's not a
to
slur
go
on
with the same
him.
Team's not a reflection.
No, not at all.
At all.
You know, I mean, look at last season. He was sent off 3 times last season for Southampton, and he's so turned that round.
Discipline, isn't it?
You know, yeah. I mean, he's only been booked. He's been booked 8 times in the Premier League this season. Okay, so from 3 yellow cards last season to quote only 8 yellows this season, that shows discipline.
Isn't it nice to have the choice to have to make? Because
it's wonderful.
God knows how many seasons we'd have been sitting here saying, well, we can write down probably 7 starters, and then the other 4 is, well, you know, as we stick a finger in the air and see which way it goes. But, you know, this time we've genuinely got a squad together that you, and as I say, I think whichever way he does pick it, you'll still feel confident whether he goes for Wanyama or he goes for Son.
Yeah, totally. And what's so exciting as well is knowing that, you know, you'll have those, whichever guy doesn't make it, you'll have him as an option off the bench, which is brilliant. You know, especially if it ends up going to extra time.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you would argue, guys, very quickly on this, that extra time Spurs, I think we finished games stronger than most of the opponents. So would we not be the more confident team going into extra time? Maybe not penalties because it's Spurs, but going into extra time very quickly. What's our thoughts on it, Emma? For you, would you still feel confident?
Yeah, I mean, I still stand by the statistics that I think came out from last season, that we are one of the fittest teams in the league. And I do think that our ability, all that extra training, those double training, those torture sessions that Pochettino put them through, you know, in pre-season, I think, you know, really starting to pay dividends now. I don't think at any point in this particular part of the season, this time round, our players are looking physically tired at all. Like I said, if anything, I think they're getting stronger, which is a marked difference, I think, to this time last year. So for me, extra time doesn't faze me at all, and obviously the bonus of not having to play till the Wednesday in the league, that's an added weight that's completely off your mind, because you know you've still got a full 3 days rest.
Plus, also an extra time we can bring on a 4th sub, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's a great point to make. I mean, it depends. Like I say, interested to see what's changed we will make during the game and whether it goes that far. But I mean, one thing I do want to say is that this FA Cup in general this season, it's one of the strongest semis in for years, you would say, in the FA Cup.
God, yeah,
no one could argue, if Spurs do go out all the way, that by God we haven't deserved it. It has been one of the strongest. It is, like I say, very, very tough. What a game it's going to be. I don't know what the nerves are like. Yeah. What is our nerves like at the moment? Daniel, I mean, I heard what you're saying about going into the game, you're quite nervous. What do you think you're going to be like come, 5 Saturday afternoon? Are you going to be biting at the fingernails, or are you going to be, no, we've got this.
I think my match day experience is probably a little bit different to all of yours. So at 5, I'll be focusing on the teams coming out in about 90 seconds' time and starting commentating. But will I be nervous? Nervous about the game, obviously. Not nervous about what I'm doing. I'm sort of used to that by now. I'll be excited, chomping at the bit, ready to go. And we have to go into the game, as Emma said earlier on, she hit the nail on the head. We have to have confidence in the manager's selection and in our own team's ability. And as I said, let them worry about Chelsea. They'll take care of themselves. We focus on our game. We can absolutely play them and play them off the park.
Completely agree. And let's get some predictions in, guys. We're going to do it. I'm really sorry. Let's go first. So sorry. Let's go first to you, Jace. Come on, let's hear it. Prediction.
5-0 Spurs. Can we go? No, I'll go for a 1-0. I'll go 1-0. Yep.
Well, we had some great clean sheets this season. That'll be arguably the biggest. Let's go to you, Emma. What do you think?
God.
No sitting on the fence. Come on. You've been
no sitting on the fence. I am going to go 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. Oh, you're going to give us one of those nail biters, aren't you? 2-1.
It is. God. I don't think it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not.
Okay, 2-1.
Come on, Daniel. Let's hear it from the stands where you'll be. What do you think?
2-0 Janssen and Sissoko.
Oh my God, then we are dreaming. Jesus. And is that including coming off the bench to assist Sissoko's goal as well?
Of course.
Okay, I'm going to go... how can I can't. Right, let's go. I'm going to go 3-2 Spurs. I can see there being goals. I can see it being a great game at Wembley. I mean, what a game that is going to be. It's going to be incredible. We're all looking forward to it. Honestly, it's going to be a fantastic game. Guys, that is all we've got time for.
One more question. Do you want Arsenal in the final?
Oh, my God.
I think I will. I've said this to quite a few people. I'll have an actual nervous breakdown if we get that lot in the final. I've got to worry about that if it happens. I can't worry about that now. That's too much stress on top of getting excited about Saturday.
I'd far sooner have Man City in the final, purely because I just never want them to win a game. And if we've got to play them in the final by then winning it, no. Just I want to see them get done about 5 or 6-0 on Saturday, on Sunday rather.
Oh God! And Daniel, to answer your own question, what do you think?
Do I want Arsenal in the final? No. I couldn't handle it.
No, I don't think any of us mentally. I think it's mentally shredding enough to play them twice in a season, let alone having to face them in a cup final. I think that would just finish us off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Interesting dilemma. Guys, we're going to be back next week. Hopefully, looking forward to Spurs going back to Wembley in an FA Cup final. Cannot wait. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Been an absolute pleasure. Emma, thank you so much for rejoining us.
No, thank you so much for having me. Come on, you Spurs. Isn't it? Saturday,
there you go. Emma Storey leading us out. There you go. Jason, thank you as always.
Cheers, mate. No problem.
Great, guys, and hope you enjoy the show. We're off to Wembley. Come on, you Spurs!
Tottenham, no one can stop them.
Hello, and welcome to Loan Watch, a weekly segment providing an update on players currently on loan from White Hart Lane. As always, I'm going to start with players currently playing football outside of England. In Italy, Federico Fazio scored Roma's opening goal in a 3-0 away win at Bologna. The Argentine also played the full 90 minutes of Roma's 1-1 home draw with Atlanta, a result which saw them lose ground on Juventus in the Serie A title race. In Germany, Nabil Bentaleb has been involved in 3 games for Schalke since we last spoke. The first was an impressive 4-1 home victory over Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga, while the second was a 2-0 away defeat to Ajax in the first leg of Schalke's Europa League quarter-final. Bentaleb's most recent appearance for Schalke was from the substitutes bench on Sunday, when Schalke lost 2-1 away at Darmstadt, the Bundesliga's bottom side. In France, Clinton NG is still being used sparingly by Marseille, and only came off the bench for the final 5 minutes of his side's 4-0 home win over St Etienne. Anton Wakes made his second substitute appearance for Atlanta United at the weekend, coming on in the 45th minute against Montreal Impact, following the dismissal of teammate Gonzalo Perez. Unfortunately, Atlanta lost the game to Montreal 2-1, but hopefully Anton's first start is imminent. Moving on to the players gaining first-team experience throughout all 3 tiers of the English Football League. Will Miller was an unused substitute in the game against Aston Villa recently, but has not made Burton Albion's matchday squad since. In League One, Luke McGee has played a further 3 times for Peterborough United since I last spoke to you, keeping 1 clean sheet in the process, which was his most recent outing, a 0-0 draw at AFC Wimbledon. Luke's other 2 appearances both ended in defeat, 1-0 away at now relegated Coventry City, and 2-1 at home to promotion-chasing Fleetwood Town. Over at Southend United, Luke Amos made his second appearance for the Shrimpers, starting and playing 65 minutes of his side's 2-1 defeat against Charlton Athletic. Since starting the game at the Valley, Luke has been an unused substitute against Chesterfield and MK Dons. In League 2, Connor Ogilvie has played in all 3 of Stevenage's games since we last spoke, but the results have not been impressive for the League 2 playoff hopefuls. Connor was part of the Stevenage side that suffered a 4-0 thumping at Colchester United and a 1-0 home defeat to Morecambe. Most recently, Stevenage gained a valuable point away at Carlisle United, a game in which Connor picked up a booking. Not getting anywhere near as much game time at Stevenage as Connor, Ryan Loft has recently made 2 further substitute appearances against Morecambe and Carlisle United respectively. Finally, Shayon Harrison made another substitute appearance for Yeovil Town, coming on for the final 25 minutes of his side's 1-0 away defeat to Newport. That's all for this week's instalment of Loan Watch. If you would like to get in touch with me on social media, I can be found on Twitter at coach_Chris83. Speak to you next week, and come on you Spurs.